Welcome to WETS Community Forum. I'm Wayne Winkler. Next Saturday, April 22nd, is Earth Day, and on that day, the Green Interfaith Network will be hosting a symposium at the Willow Tree Coffee House and Music Room at 216 East Main Street in downtown Johnson City. Today, I'm talking with Ted Jackson, the Vice President of the Green Interfaith Network, and Andrew Gibbens, a board member of the Green Interfaith Network. Thank you very much for being on the show today, and would you please introduce yourselves?
Sure, Wayne. My name is Ted Jackson, and I'm the Vice President with Green Interfaith Network.
And my name's Andrew Gibbens. I'm one of the board members.
Of course, we want to talk about the symposium taking place next Saturday, but first, tell me about the Green Interfaith Network.
I'll take the first shift. This is Ted. The Green Interfaith Network is a nonprofit organization, and we are engaged with faith communities and nonprofits, and we're trying to look towards sustainable activities here in the Northeast Tennessee, Southwest Virginia area. And the way we do that, a couple of things. One, very practically, we work with our faith communities and with nonprofits to look for ways that they can save money through actions that we come in and do energy and assessments or energy audits of their facilities. So we come in as a team, look at their facilities, work with the organization, and see how they can improve their activities there so they can save money and redirect those resources to things that they want to do. So that's part of what we do. The other part, and I'll let Andrew kind of take over from there.
Well, there's one of the main things that we're working towards is community organizing along the same lines of having more sustainable development in our area and helping to organize folks to engage in the community in ways kind of mitigate the effects of climate change on our local population. Going forward, that's something that we're also really starting to try to figure out. Can't say we know the answers yet, but that's why it's also, to segue into what the symposium is about, is we're really wanting to get that conversation going. So we just wanted to be an organization that will help with that.
Next Saturday, you're holding an Earth Day symposium at the Willow Tree Coffee House in downtown Johnson City. What sort of an event is this going to be? What can people expect when they go there?
Well, it's a symposium, and it's not an extremely academic kind of thing. It's involving mostly local and regional folks that are going to be presenting on a number of different topics, but all geared towards what we would call climate resiliency. And so the title of the symposium is Climate Resiliency in the Mountain Empire. Again, as Ted mentioned earlier, it's what we're doing here in Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. Ted, do you have some specifics about?
Sure. Yeah. Well, talk a little bit about, I'll be kicking off the symposium, doing shall we say, the batting up first, and then talk about the concept itself of resiliency and how that affects the communities here. So we'll kind of describe what resiliency is and then move on into what we think is going to happen here in the Tri-Cities area in terms of what climate's going to look like out 10, 20, and on to about 80 years from now. And then following that, look at what techniques and what options are available that we can work towards and getting our communities to kind of coalesce and work towards those types of things. Other parts of our symposium presenters, they'll be talking about Johnson City Power Board will have a representative talking about their green power initiatives. We'll have a solar and wind energy installer talk about the actions there. A gentleman who actually has taken that to the extreme, if you will, who drives actually a Tesla and has solar photovoltaics on his house to get towards what he terms net energy zero, which means essentially what he generates at his household is basically almost what he's using. We'll have a lady talk about water here in the Tennessee area. We'll have a young lady, a former college student, talk about alternative food and the challenges there. So there's a whole variety of things that are going on throughout this symposium. So we're going to touch on a variety of things, and it'll be kind of, I think, interesting, and I'm hoping exciting and energizing the folks that will attend, and we expect good things to be happening as a result from that.
The term climate resiliency seems to suggest that we're all in for some pretty rough times coming up in the very near future. I mean, we've all heard about the projections involving the cities along the coast as the water levels rise in the ocean. Some of these cities are going to be, well, pretty much underwater. How difficult are things going to be here in the Tri-Cities region?
I wouldn't, here in the Northeast Tennessee, Southwest Virginia, Northwestern Virginia, North Carolina area, not necessarily rough times. Certainly temperatures will be increasing over this time. So one of the things that we'll see here in the area, probably by the year 2100, we'll see temperatures on average rise maybe 5 or 10 degrees Fahrenheit. It depends. But it'll be a modest increase in temperatures. Rainfall will be approximately the same. It'll be drier during the summer and maybe slightly wetter during the winter months. But in terms of resiliency, the things that are going to happen are going to be outside of this area. And what we as citizens and people who live in the communities need to look towards is, there are going to be issues in terms of, more extreme weather events. We've seen here, at least nearby, of course, looking at last winter, we had fairly dry and drought conditions here in Tennessee. The fires near Gatlinburg, the Chimney Tops 2 fire, we saw smoke here in the Johnson City area, for a few days here,
right.
But it was quite, significant. It was one of the most significant fires that the folks in the southeast part of Tennessee had ever experienced, I think, in quite a number of years. So there's going to be events like that. And so the concept of climate resiliency really looks towards how do communities work together to look at resisting hazards or absorbing their impacts or accommodating things going on or recovering from those impacts. So kind of working together, seeing, how can we do that in terms of all those types of things. So I've used to work in our emergency response things where I used to work. And so, we look at things like mitigation activities, adaptation activities, preparation activities. How do you do all those types of things? But do this in a more cohesive and connected way throughout the community. So it's just not, individuals or certain government agencies, looking at this, but looking collectively on how do we become, able to deal with those types of activities so that we can, adjust to the changes, because we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we do know that things are going to change.
You mentioned that we're going to be seeing a slight rise in temperatures, average temperatures of about 5 degrees by 2100. That's 83 years from now. So that's not something that is going to be happening immediately, right?
No, this is a long-term exercise, if you will, that we have to look towards building the capacity here in our communities. And this is climate change has been ongoing for a number of years. One of the things that we have to do is be able as a community to look at can we build up our capacities here? And I think actually one of the things that we're finding, at least in my observations, in my short time living here in the Northeast Tennessee area, is that there are a lot of good things that people have done over the years. I mean, I think that personally we have what seems to be a decent transportation system, a decent medical system here, education with ETSU here. You have App State, over on the Boone side, and other universities, and even the regular school systems here in this area seem to be fairly decent things. Medical, education, transportation, our commerce, it could stand some help in terms of diversification, but again, I think we have some key elements in place. Certainly our art scene is vibrant here, and I think it could be improved upon. So there's some good elements here. And then looking at what are our vulnerabilities? What things could happen out in the future that we could work on together to make sure that we can have a continued vibrant and exciting economy, where people would like to move here. Because we think one of the things that will happen out in the future is something that happened quite literally last fall with the folks. We have family in coastal South Carolina, and actually they had to temporarily, at least parts of our family, had to temporarily move up and stay with us during one of the hurricane events there. And so one of the things that we suspect will happen is that as people learn of this particular area and how wonderful it is to actually live here, they may think, maybe we should think about moving here. And so you're going to have some population influxes here, and that's going to cause some pressures on all of our things, such as transportation, medical, healthcare, education, water, sewer, electrical infrastructure. All those types of pressures are going to be happening over the summer, and so maybe preparing now for those increased population pressures will help continue to make this a wonderful place to live.
So you see the Tri-Cities region as becoming an even more desirable place to live in the future.
Oh, absolutely.
As the climate changes. Some places, for example, along the coastline, are going to be facing some pretty rough times, but you seem to think the Tri-Cities area is going to be in pretty good shape.
I think so. I think we have, as I said, some good parts of this area that are, well situated in terms of we have a moderate climate and weather here. It is, frankly, not too hot and frankly not too cold. It will be a little warmer and it'll be less cool during the winters. And I think, frankly, the folks that live along our coastal areas are going to think about long and hard about, maybe we might want to migrate. And it may not be, this week, this year, this, decade, but, people will be thinking about this. And so it can also be an economic development thing that, the various parts of our area, in each county usually has, and certainly the state of Tennessee, state of Virginia, state of North Carolina, all have, economic development parts of their state governments. And they work with local agencies as well. And so, here in Johnson City, I believe there's an economic development. And so, you tie those things together, and I think, frankly, this area could really be a very strong and useful way of garnering both, resources in terms of people power, but, economic power. So I think there's actually good aspects for this area to become, quite a regional powerhouse. So anyway, all that is just, these are things that we can do right now to help build that strength and build the infrastructure and get the word out that, this is a great place to live and work and play.
You're listening to WETS Community Forum. I'm Wayne Winkler, and I'm talking with Ted Jackson and Andrew Gibbens from the Green Interfaith Network about a symposium that will be held next Saturday, April 22nd at the Willow Tree Coffee House and Music Room on East Main Street in downtown Johnson City. It runs from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. next Saturday, which is Earth Day. And the things you've been talking about sort of point up the interconnectedness of everything. I mean, when we're talking about even just a few degrees of temperature change, it's going to have an economic effect. It's going to have a population effect of shifting populations. It's going to have really wide-ranging effects, isn't it?
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do is really be proactive. And I hate to, using that term, it is so overused. But but thinking ahead and seeing what's out there, what could be out there, and then capitalizing on those outside activities, and then bringing that home here to bring people together, energize them, bring them together, start working on those things that a little bit of vulnerabilities, but we can work on those. And that way it strengthens our communities here. And I think that sense of history that East Tennessee has, that Northwest North Carolina has, Southwestern Virginia, all have their own little histories. And bringing those histories together, helps to build communities too. So, bringing history together and then looking to the future, brings both of those things together, helps us to be a stronger community.
Well, we've talked about some of the positive aspects of this area as regarding the future, but you mentioned vulnerabilities. What would be an example of some of those vulnerabilities that we have in this area?
Probably, and I'm not 100% certain on this, but I would think certainly our water infrastructure might be one of the potential weaknesses in this area. Each major city here, so Johnson City, Elizabethton, Kingsport, each have their own water source. I am not 100% certain that they're interconnected by any stretch. But you have TVA providing essentially water through reservoirs and that type of thing for surface waters. And then you have a lot of communities that are on very small sources of water. And during drier seasons, there are times and places where the smaller communities and individuals may have trouble with obtaining water and then looking towards how do we kind of drought proof those areas. So one of the things that might be a concern that might be useful to look at is how do we protect our water sources? And that may be conservation issues in terms of can we together look at using less water individually so that we aren't as affected during drought season. So I think that's one of the major areas that might be an issue. I'm not 100% certain on the electricity things. Maybe our friends from Johnson City Power Board may have a little thing, so we can have some discussion during the symposium about looking downstream, seeing if there are issues with generation of power, since Johnson City Power Board, of course, gets their power from TVA. They purchase power from them. But, are there issues with, getting that power to us? And do we want to look at conservation and efficiency measures so that we're reducing our power consumption so that they're not having to put in additional infrastructure as quickly to, support, either the current people that are living here or anticipated future populations that come into the area out, 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 years from now. So those are kind of two areas I think, power and water might be a series of vulnerabilities. You might want to look at our medical system in terms of we have wonderful hospital and secondary medical care systems, but in terms of our public health, do we need to strengthen those and look at things like prevention activities? We certainly have more elderly folks. I'm getting to be one of those, I think. Do we want to look at things like preventative health so that we're not using our medical resources as much 10, 20, and 50 years from now? So one of the things that we're looking at, and Andrew's got this brainchild too, that we may do sometime in the fall or a little bit later, look at climate resiliency in the medical area. So we're thinking ahead.
I work in the medical field myself. I'm a hospice chaplain, and I must say that has certainly colored my view of things. And so I often think, in kind of terms of transitions and things like that, and making sure those transitions are as peaceful as possible. That's essentially one of the primary goals of hospice care, for instance. So when, all these things that Ted's been discussing, one of the other, just the elements that I would throw in there, some of these transitions certainly have the potential for being, if not prepared for, would be more of a crisis versus a more thoughtful, planned out transition. And so that's why we're wanting to forge the partnerships that we're looking towards and maybe just facilitate those things with various disciplines throughout our region. There's the large scale picture can often be rather daunting, as you kind of pointed out earlier. And so that's one of the reasons we're kind of going to this focus on the local and regional climate resiliency as a means of really focusing this on the ground. The stuff that's going on everywhere else is still going to be very important and is going to be affecting us. But how can we, in a sense, not go nuts as those things take place? And so that's what we're really looking to work on.
The symposium is entitled Climate Resiliency in the Mountain Empire, and it takes place next Saturday, April 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Willow Tree Coffee House and Music Room on East Main Street in downtown Johnson City. Who are you targeting this symposium toward? I mean, it's open to everyone. Anyone who's interested can come and attend, but who would you really like to have there?
We'd like anyone and everyone to show up that wants to. And it's been nice, as I've been talking with folks particularly at the Willow Tree and just a couple other community events of late. It does seem that a number of younger folks are hearing about it, which is uplifting, and it's getting around by word of mouth. And I think in an age of social media, like all that kind of stuff just kind of, it all slips by. It's just so much. But like when you actually hear that there's people talking about it, that's a very positive thing. So I don't think we really know who's going to show up, but there's a lot of folks in this area that are trying to engage in important issues and actions. So I'm familiar with a few little organizations like that, and I have a feeling there'll be a lot of, in a sense, cross-pollinating of groups that are working towards positive action in the area. So I can't say exactly. I think we'll have a decent group of folks from some of our faith communities. And that's an important thing for Jenny, but we also are very open to, basically just anyone that's willing to work on this.
Or anybody that's willing to learn.
Learn, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you start by, getting curiosity. Mm-hmm. And with curiosity, I think the next step then says, well, if I'm curious about something, maybe I need to go out and find what's going on. And so that's what we're doing. We're generating the curiosity, and we're bringing people together that can offer their perspectives on this large topic. Mm-hmm. And from that, then maybe we'll work on action. But frankly, in terms of your question, actually, who's going to show up? As Andrew says, we don't know, but it is open to anybody, and it's free.
And we're very thankful for Terry and everyone over at Willow Tree. Often events like this kind of often take place in sometimes a little bit more of a sterile environment, you might say, like in one of the colleges or a church or something like that. And that was one of the reasons we decided to try to work at the Willow Tree. There's just a good influx of people there on a regular basis for one, and going to where people are is an important thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, last month, I gave a talk on behalf of Green Interfaith at the Tennessee Environmental Conference, which was up in Kingsport, and so at the convention center there. And it has a venue, and a lot of folks or a few of the folks I used to work with in my professional career, were there, and so. Yeah, that's a group of folks, and certainly any of our folks in the environmental community can certainly show up, and that'd be great. So that's a group of folks that you connect in with, but this is a slightly different venue, and I think connecting with a larger and more diverse group of people might be getting, shall we say, the regular folks that would come in and just have a sit down for a Saturday morning and afternoon in a wonderful venue, and just listening to folks and hearing about the different aspects of what's going on is just, I think, going to be a wonderful event. And as I said, it's 10 to 4, Earth Day. So it should be, I'm not sure what the long-term forecast is for the weather, but it should be a lovely day. So we may have folks spilling out. Then there'll be a band afterwards.
That's right. Danger Muffin will be there on that Saturday night, the 22nd, and it's their CD release show. The Get Right Band will be opening, so you might just want to stay there. It's a really nice environment for this sort of a symposium because it's got a comfortable arrangement of chairs. Everybody can kind of be laid back. It's not a real sterile environment, and you can get up and go to the next room and get a latte. And a symposium like this is a place where ideas are exchanged, where people could just throw out the things that they know, and you really don't know who's going to pick up on that, who's going to make a connection and say, hey, that ties in with something I've been thinking about, or sort of like the molecules in the room might just come together in completely unexpected ways. And these ideas are going to be going out to and coming back from the people who will be implementing these ideas in the real world, the grassroots, so to speak. Mm-hmm. It's WETS Community Forum. I'm Wayne Winkler, and I'm talking with Ted Jackson and Andrew Gibbens from the Green Interfaith Network. They're going to be sponsoring a symposium next Saturday, April 22nd, Earth Day, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Willow Tree Coffee House and Music Room on East Main Street in downtown Johnson City. Is there anything more about the symposium or about the Green Interfaith Network that you want to make sure that people hear about?
We just touch upon any faith organization or any nonprofit that would like Green Interfaith Network to have their energy assessment team come in and look at their facilities, just give us an email. That's usually the best way to get a hold of us. greeninterfaith@gmail.com is our web or email address. You can go onto our website, and it's greeninterfaith.org. You can kind of find out a little bit about our organization, but look on the Greening Grants section of our website and look at the success stories of our website. So you can get a flavor as to, the types of activities that we offer in terms of, coming out and doing an energy assessment of your facility, and kind of look at the reports that we've generated for organizations. It could be as diverse. I mean, last month we did one at one of the buildings at King University up in Bristol, but we've done one at Andrews Church at Hopwood Christian. We've done assessments at, actually just finished one, or at First Presbyterian over in Elizabethton. So we've done a variety of things. St. Mary's Catholic Church here in Johnson City actually has won a national award for their work. Green Interfaith kind of got them started, but they took the ball and ran with it. And so last year in 2016, they won one of the Cool Congregation Awards nationwide. There's only 5 or 6 awards issued every year, and they won it for their energy savings. So anyway, all that is just say that we kickstart things off. We offer a $500 incentive, sort of a pay it forward thing, so that any organization that wants to get energy assessment and then undertake a year-long progress report, we will offer $500 to kind of kickstart any energy savings they want to do. And if they make their $500 savings after a year is out, we just ask that you pay us back so we can take that same money and pay it forward to somebody else.
Once again, Ted Jackson and Andrew Gibbens from the Green Interfaith Network. The Symposium, Climate Resiliency in the Mountain Empire, will be held next Saturday, Earth Day, April 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Willow Tree Coffee House and Music Room. The keynote speaker will be Anthony Flacavento, talking about building an economy that works for people in place. There are many other topics that will be covered that you can go to the Green Interfaith Network website and find out more about that. And I just want to thank you, Andrew and Ted, for being with us today.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne. It's been a pleasure actually to see you in person.
Always a disappointment, I know.
No, actually it isn't.
For WETS Community Forum, I'm Wayne Winkler. Another good reason to be in downtown Johnson City next Saturday is the Friends of the Johnson City Public Library Spring Book Sale. All proceeds will support the library, and that'll be taking place next Saturday, April 22nd, from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. in the Jones Meeting Room in the library. And a week from Monday, April 24th, the Spring Basler Lecture Series presents world-renowned gravitational plant biologist Dr. Carl Hazenstein. Dr. Hazenstein is the Spring 2017 holder of the Wayne G. Basler Chair of Excellence for the Integration of the Arts, Rhetoric, and Science at East Tennessee State University. His next topic will be the algorithmic beauty of plants, and that will be Monday, April 24th at 7 p.m. in Ball Hall Auditorium on the ETSU campus.